I have experience with Dead or Alive 2. Dead or Alive 2 has always been one of the fan favourites of the series, and that always left me a bit confused. I played the original Dreamcast version a lot, and while I thought it was an incredible game, I would never have put it in my top games in the franchise. I would easily have said DO 3 was a massive improvement, but that was before I managed to finally get my hands on Dead or Alive Ultimate, which contained the first two games. There's a couple of reasons that I decided to choose the definitive editions of these games, and one big reason came to this game in particular. The original Dead or Alive 2 comes with a story. The original Dead or Alive 2 was set to be released as a launch title for the PlayStation 2. Unfortunately, Itagaki still wanted to fine-tune a lot of the game. One day, one of the managers in the company came to Itagaki and ended up asking for a loan of the game to play it over the weekend. Without telling Itagaki, that manager took the game straight to a printing press, and the game was put into production. Pretty scummy if you ask me. That means that the original port of Dead or Alive 2 was an incomplete version, and I'm not making any mistakes by going into this game at its very peak. So finally getting the chance to play the definitive version of this game, will it change my opinion? I'm Budget Disney Princess, and this is my retrospective of Dead or Alive 2 Ultimate. When I popped this game in for the first time, I had to take a double take. This game still looks fantastic, even way more fantastic than I can recall. The original Dead or Alive 2 still looks pretty good, but this game remade it from the ground up using the Dead or Alive 3 engine. The character models are more polished now, giving off a more natural look to the characters, rather than the sort of plasticky dull look that was in the original version. In fact, I'd go as far as to say it looks better than Dead or Alive 3 in many places. And that especially goes for the locales. There are so many places that stand out in the game. Some of my old favourite stages have now been mixed in with a lot of new ones. You'll see things that you didn't even think possible in the first game, as shining of the sun into the lens, the snowfall on the mountaintop, or the lightning flash in a Rio stage. I like the lightning stage. The visual expansion on this game compared to the first one is night and day. While the first one has its charm with its square 6th generation polygons, that can be appreciated, sure, but it's the second game where the characters actually got enough visual fidelity to add to a lot of their personality and really make them noticeable. The game got a new engine from the ground up. Maybe that was just for better particle physics, who knows, but it really works. The music, even from the start of the opening menu, is what many would consider the definitive theme for the series. It's greatly improved tremendously, with many great tracks here. And of course stages, instead of a simple square with a different background, stages like the Great Wall, the Snow Stage, the Street, the Clock Tower, allow for not only another stage, but also 3 times as much as the average stage in a fighting game. But making the stages bigger didn't mean they lacked on the detail. Some stages are absolutely beautiful, as you see the environment like heavy rain and snow that bash the screen, which still look incredible even to this day. This goes for everything. The design and the style begins to shine through and create the layout and vibe that the series would go for, but the visuals aren't the only thing that's improved. The story of Dead or Alive 2 takes place directly after the first game. After Kasumi is captured at the end of the first tournament, she is caught and experimented on to create a clone of herself with advanced genetic materials. This is known as Project Alpha, which is successful. Unlike her brother, who was also caught and experimented on, that project was called Project Epsilon. Unlike Alpha, Project Epsilon has managed to heal Hayate from his paralysed state, but unfortunately wasn't able to improve his genetics like in the Alpha project, and ended up giving him amnesia, so he went from paralysed to amnesia. Hayate unfortunately seems to get the short end of the stick. But things seem to be looking up for Hayate, and then down again as he's in a helicopter crash, and he's the only survivor, wandering around the jungle for days in Germany before finally collapsing. He's found by a karate prodigy named Tomi, who brings him home, and her daddy begin training him in karate. He adopts the name Ein and joins the newly launched Dead or Alive 2 tournament in hopes of finding something out about himself. Surprisingly, this actually works. Ryu Hayabusa spots him, and realising his best friend is suffering from a brain injury, decides to do the only logical thing and beat the crap out of him. Thankfully, in the Dead or Alive world, it seems that violence is really the answer, as this somehow works with Hayate remembering who he is. The Dead or Alive tournament is now being announced by a newcomer to the series, Helena Douglas, the daughter of famed Douglas after he was assassinated by Bayman in the last game, hired by Victor Donovan. Honestly, it runs in the family because her mother was also assassinated. Her father actually bit her style because she did it way before him. Helena is looking for answers and trying to find out what is happening behind the scenes in Dotec. Despite the company being the problem of everything, and them being the main reason for everything that goes wrong in these games, Helena is actually pretty cool and helps Kazumi and the other ninjas figure out what's happening when she can. Well, except for one specific ninja, Yanni. Ayane is Kasumi's half-sister, tasked with taking her out for running away from the clan. Helena, for some reason, when she sees Ayane, is like, "It was you who killed my mum." I never really understood this part of the story. Ayane is currently 17 at this time. If she had killed her mother years ago, then she would have been barely a teenager all them years ago. I guess that's just how Helena enters the room. Instead of responding like any normal person would, Ayane's like, "Yeah, so what if I did?" I was always curious as if this was the original plotline of the game series, and they decided to retcon it later when Ayane started to become a more honourable character. As you'll see in a later game, it wasn't actually her. Helena wants to find out what happened to her father, and uncover the secrets of the Mist organisation, and hopefully get some answers as to why her daddy was game-ended. She is unaware right now of the now clone Kasumi, who goes by the name Kasumi Alpha. Thankfully, her boy Ryu managed to save the original Kasumi, and right now currently Kasumi Alpha is the least of their worries. The gate to the underworld has been opened, and Tengu has come through, a powerful demon with some naws in him, but thankfully our boy Ryu takes out demons every single day, and he manages to slap him back through the portal. This guy beat the goddamn devil, the Archfiend, and you think some quirky boy with sandals is going to stop him? He saves the day thankfully and ends up taking him to Ass-Beating Town. The game ends with the ninjas taking the win. They regain his memory and rejoin his half-sister Ayane. Kasumi unfortunately is still on the run, but Tengu is only a distraction for a much darker and more familiar enemy working behind the scenes. All of the original cast returns, except for Raido, who has taken time off to be dead. I've already explained most of them, and their movesets are almost identical, though handled with a much better aspect of fluidity and a few extra moods. Bass are Bass Armstrong, a legendary pro wrestler based on Hulk Hogan. Tina's father is a character that actually was introduced in some of the later versions of Dead or Alive 1. He's kind of a comic relief character, as his only interest in joining the tournament is to stop Tina from pursuing her dream of now becoming a model. I hope you found that joke funny, because that's all he's going to be doing for the next 20 years. Bass is the slowest character Dead or Alive is introduced by far, by his hard strikes and managing to get a throw can lead to some serious damage. Ayane was also introduced in later versions of Dead or Alive 1, the same as Bass. Her playstyle is very balanced like Kasumi, with fast strikes and an average in throws and blocks. However, her difference comes with the fact she covers a lot more vertical ground. Leon is introduced here. Confusingly, after his missus dies, he is on a one-man mission to prove he's the strongest man in the world. His playstyle is taken directly from Bayman, who didn't originally appear in this game but was added into later versions as an unlockable character. Hayate, who goes by the name Ain in this game, is an expert in karate, adding in a speedy character that can end some combos with a devastating kick or punch. Helena Douglas is easily one of the most complex characters introduced in the series thus far. Her moveset is based on switching stances. Helena is the most complex character introduced yet, and takes a lot more time than any other to master, even Ryu Hayabusa. Tengu, the big bad boy, who you'd expect to be a slow mover, is actually quite fast. He moves for all angles because he's a boss character. He also has a few moves that can use the whole screen to his advantage. As for the returning characters, I've spoken about what a few of them are up to, but other returning characters here expand on the arcs they started in the first game. Jan Li is here for the very same reason, to be the best fighter. Lei Feng also returns with the same goal, and also to re-spark her rivalry with Jan Li. Tina now wants to become a model after her success in her acting career. She's girl bossing it, while Bass is just there to stop her. Genfu, who earned enough money, continues his tradition of nobility, as he actually managed to save enough money to save his granddaughter in the first game. But now he's joined in to raise money for research and to help on other people with her condition. So yeah, he remains pretty braced, and Zack is there. Zack is here simply for the money again. And we won't go into what he did with that money. Even to this day, the game is fast-paced and fluid. This makes DOA stand out in the fighting game community. Fighting games usually have a condition of making the last game irrelevant, but I'll honestly say that Dead or Alive has the core system of its fighting being discovered very quickly. If you pick up the series from the second game, I can guarantee you're in for a great time. While the original Dead or Alive game was held back by the technical limitations, Dead or Alive 2 feels like the game Itagaki was striving to make from the beginning. At first this game made it look like it may be just a faster version of fighting that was in the original, but there are so many small additions that help raise the game's fighting to something iconic. The whole system has been enhanced. By now pressing back in the direction upper, higher and lower, it will now have a reversal that corresponds with the following moves. This may seem a lot harder than the original, and if it was just the holds, yes. However, Dead or Alive 2 added in a designated guard button, which I was shocked wasn't actually in the first game. This adds another level to the gameplay, while also being fairly balanced. The guard is effective, but if you rely on it too much it will leave you open to throws, which also have been improved immensely. The first one had combo throws, but very rarely. With the movesets enhanced, characters like Tina, Leon, Base now have brutal combo throws, and even characters like Kasumi, Ayane, Lei Fang and Genfu all even now have their own combo throws, which can be hard to get done, but if you manage to do it, it will cause a devastating blow to your opponent's health bar. With fire flying in the first game are gone, but in return characters are naturally more bouncy when they hit the ground, meaning with a bit more practice the ability to do much more expansive combos is very possible, unlike what was in the first game. But the most important new addition is the stage transitions, which have become a staple part of the Dead or Alive series. It becomes a rush to be the first one to knock your opponent flying into another section of the stage. This also greatly enhances the layout of the stages, allowing for expanded environments and getting generally much more out of a simple stage. However, as much as I love this game, I do have a minor criticism. The fighting is much more fluid, however there are slight times I've noticed when a combo or throw might go straight through a character. It was noticeable but not too much to become a serious flaw in the game. From what I can tell based on my limited knowledge of game design, is that the models when shifting into a new animation may have different hit points that can change just as the hit or throw is being done. Apart from that mild criticism, I can honestly say the fighting is so much more improved here. It's a game that can still be picked up and enjoyed to this day. Even the original, although I will say the ultimate version is definitely the way to go. All the modes from the first game return, time, attack and survival are here, and play the same as they did before, but this game adds a few more. Spectator mode allows you to pick two fighters and go at it using different camera angles you wouldn't see in the normal game. But the new big mode introduced here is the tag battle mode, which became an instant fan favourite. With two characters to fight with, it drastically changes the game, but also opens up transition throws, where you can switch characters out with a brutal throw that all characters have, allowing more depth and more ways to play. I remember I heard someone say one day that Dead or Alive is a game that knows how the players play. The core gameplay is simple, and that's not said in a negative way. There is no wave dashes or super special exploits to get good. At Dead or Alive, it takes practice and fast precision. The more you play, the more patterns you learn, and eventually get better at predicting how to reverse. Learning to switch up as well, by not doing the same move over and over, which even a computer can analyse this, meaning the game can also provide some difficulty. In games like Tekken, learning the exploits like the wave dashes previously mentioned can make even facing the computer its highest level of cakewalk. This is a restriction Dead or Alive doesn't have, and that's something incredible. I've been spending a lot of time comparing it to the first game. I mentioned the improvements. Well, does this go for the unlockables? Hell freaking yeah. In the later versions of the game, Bayman and Tengu, the final boss, were added in as unlockable characters, and just for a good measure in the definitive edition of the game, they also added in another character, Hitomi. Hitomi was my first main and a character I loved to use, so adding her in here is a massive reason I loved playing this definitive edition. It allowed me to play Dead or Alive 2 in a completely new way that I never got the chance to before. Unfortunately, none of the unlockable characters get any play in the story mode, being that their appearance here isn't technically canon, but there's still reason to play as them. And the costumes here have gone above and beyond, even surpassing the costumes for the next two games in the series. Kasumi and Ananya have 20 costumes each. The women usually get about 14 to 16, and the character who receives the least costumes like Ain and Genfu still have 7 costumes each. Even the unlockable characters have alternate costumes. Tengu only gets 3, Bayman gets 7, and Hitomi receives a whopping 16. If you manage to make it through and unlock all the costumes, you unlock the CG gallery, which honestly is nothing but a few screenshots of the girls in bikinis from the volleyball games, which I know someone will be looking at this in shame for memories of when they had no internet. It's not the best unlockable for completing everything, but hey, at least it's something. Dead or Alive 2 is the Tekken 3 of Tekken. The Dreamcast version of Soul Calibur, the Street Fighter 2 of Street Fighter. It's the game that trademarked its vibes and solidified itself as a franchise. I firmly believe that if Dead or Alive 1 had been the only one that released, that the series would only be recalled as a very forgotten PlayStation 1 game. Dead or Alive 2 proved that it was here to stay, to stick its feet in, and was going to earn its respect among all the other fighting games. In the place the Dead or Alive series is in now, there's no question it has fallen behind in popularity behind the big three, Street Fighter, Tekken and Mortal Kombat, who take up the majority of the fighting game scene now. Dead or Alive 2 came just before the downing of overproduced fighting games from the early 90s to the 2000s. There seemed to be a new game that was trying to start a franchise, making it even harder to stick. The fact Dead or Alive 2 came out with such love and such potential and could stand hand in hand with the greats at this time is such a true honour. I said in my last retrospective to only play the first game if you were curious and a huge fan of the series. Dead or Alive 2 I can recommend to everyone. If you, like me, never saw much in Dead or Alive, maybe due to the marketing or how some people in the fighting game community talk about the series in a negative fashion, then I would say give this game a test. Dead or Alive 2 is a near perfect fighting game to me, a remnant of when so much was right down the disc, so many secrets and so many things to do. Dead or Alive 2 Ultimate is not only a great fighting game, this game has become one of my favourite all-time games. The only problem with this game is that a physical copy seems to be a tad pricey in certain places, although it's all available online and through the Xbox backwards compatibility program. Dead or Alive 2 is known as the fan favourite, and I can see why now. If you feel yourself worn down by all the fighting online games that have become stagnant, or simply looking at where to start in the series, then throw in Dead or Alive 2 Ultimate, and you are guaranteed to have a great time.